The Holy Gospel is written in the 12th chapter of St. Luke, beginning at the 49th verse. Jesus said, I came to bring fire to the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. I have a baptism with which you be baptized, and what stress I am wonder until it is completed. Do you think that I've come to bring peace to the earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. From now on, five in one household will be divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. They will be divided. Father against son, son against father, mother against daughter, daughter against mother, mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. He also said to the crowds, when you see a cloud rising in the west, you immediately say, it is going to rain. And so it happens. And when you see the south wind blowing, you say, there will be scorching heat. And it happens. You hypocrites, you know how to interpret the appearance of earth and sky, but why do you not know how to interpret the present time? Here ends the gospel for the day. Please be seated. It's a tough sell. It's a hard sell, this Christianity. Don't you understand that? I don't want to shock you any further this morning, but I've got to tell you something that'll really, really blow your mind. For the last month, I have been searching the internet for some answers. Yes, I don't spend much time on the internet, but I'm hard up for answers. I'm talking about advertising. And somebody recently, and I guess some people in our own congregation have said, we have to make more of a presence on the internet. That's the way you communicate these days. This is the way you know the church is there. This is the way you invite people in this year, 2019. And so, in terms of what seems to be a national disaster as far as attendance, and churches losing membership and having difficulty getting membership, took to look how churches were trying to invite people in through this medium that we have, but can always be improved. The council has talked about it. Others in the congregation have talked about it. How can we make the internet more relevant and get people excited about the church? It's advertising. It's marketing. Same as any other product, they say. Well, I just read a statistic the other day that kind of contradicts that. It says that 86% of the people that come to a church for the first time come because they have been invited by someone in that congregation. 86%. Well, the internet is still relevant to the other 16%. What does advertising do? The problem with advertising is that it operates totally different the way the church operates. And so the advertising for what people do in normal commercial ventures doesn't seem to work in the church. And then when we read our text this morning, we get even more scattered. This is scary, the epistle text. It says, for those people who became the stalwarts of faith, said some were tortured, others suffered mocking, and flogging, and even chains and imprisonment. They were stoned to death. They were sewn in two. They were killed by the sword. They went about in skins of sheep and goats, destitute, persecuted, tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts and mountains and in caves and in holes in the ground. Not the kind of message we'd like to receive this morning, isn't it? And then the gospel text says Jesus came and he would bring division. Division within households. Not what we want to hear. But that's really misinterpreting the text of the morning. The simple message in simple everyday words is that it isn't necessarily easy being a Christian. You don't get enormous breaks that other people get just because you're a Christian. It is hard. How does this contrast with the advertising for the normal population, for the normal products? Well, first of all, advertisers concentrate on the self, the individual. All the things that they market are for you and your pleasure, your prestige, for curing medical problems, or for entertainment. But concentrate on you. What's good for you? And the more they can make it relevant to something in your life that matters, the better it is that they can sell it. But see, Christianity doesn't work that way. You don't come into the church and want all the benefits for me. You come into a church to say, how do I learn to be someone that can be meaningful and giving to somebody else? Advertising puts you into the self. Religion takes you supposedly out of yourself. And if we would have a tendency to market the church in a way that only benefits you, and there are some churches that do, and I saw them. Look at what we have. We got a magnificent choir. As a matter of fact, we got 4 choirs, one for every age and music level. We have wonderful Bible camps, and they are plush, and the kids will have so much fun there. We have a huge congregation, and even though we have 12 or 13,000, our Sunday school still is 300 or 400 or 500, and just think of the influence that the other kids will have on your children. They try to market it in terms of getting. And Jesus always talked in terms of giving. Advertisers concentrates on immediate satisfaction. It's got to work right now. And in the advertisements they have on television, it's usually got a time limit attached to it. Do it by this date or you will miss out. There's got to be an urgency. And when somebody orders that they want it now, that was the one trouble they faced originally with ordering online. You'd go to the store and pick it up. You could have it that day, that hour, that minute you left the store. And all those that advertise on television or on the internet try to make sure that you have it by the next day or by the end of the day as soon as you can. Because if you are going to get something, it has to be of value to you now. Christianity says that there's a value to you now. It gives you purpose and substance to your life. But the great reward is somewhere out there. And we're now people. And so that thing, so far off in the distance, we can kind of put aside and let it rest for a while. When it comes closer to the time that we think we need it. The problem is we could need it at any time. The advertising for the secular world says it has to be measurable. Lose 10 pounds in 30 days. Get 25 to 30 miles to the gallon immediately. Get rid of that old gas guzzler. You can have pain relief right now. We have pain management clinics that promise some relief right away, something they very often can't deliver. You can't measure your faith. You can't. Can't tell whether faith is strong or not. Sometimes you think it's so weak. But how do you compare that to somebody who supposedly has a stronger faith? Non-measurable. Can't see if it makes a whole lot of difference. It's a hard sell. Regular advertising says we need a guarantee. It's returnable. Things that I didn't think you could return are now easily returnable. A lot of car dealers have a 7-day return privilege, even for new cars. Don't they understand it's a used car after 7 days? Takes a huge hit. Sheets you can sleep on for 60 days before you decide whether they fit or not. Mattresses at 90 days. That's a highly personal item. How can you try it for 90 days and get your money back? Well, how can manufacturers do that? Well, of course, they're figuring that nobody will ever return it, or they'll make it so difficult when you want to return it that you still want to return it. Guarantees. That's what we want. Guarantees, and we can get some kind of restitution if we don't like it. Not so with Christianity. No guarantees. Simply walk by faith. Walk by faith and everything will be all right. Well, prove it. Show me how that's going to happen. Can't do it. And so you see, the things that we operate on a normal daily basis in terms of how we want things and how we get them is totally different than Christianity wants. And so Christianity is a hard sell. Christianity doesn't make a lot of promises that everything will go well. Everything will be perfect in life, that you won't suffer pain and tribulation. Tough times. No guarantee there. But it does promise hope. It does promise an eternity. It promises God's presence. But the one thing we have to understand is that everything that is really important in life, everything that really is important in life takes time and commitment and is filled along the way with disappointments, failures, and trials. Every great invention that is made, every great movement, every great achievement has taken time and frustration and failure before that which is important is realized. And so Christianity comes today and says, Jesus died for you. You got to believe it. Can't prove it. But there are a lot of witnesses, a whole cloud of witnesses. And because he lives, you too shall live, and your loved ones shall live. And you can have hope. But more than that, you got a purpose for living. That purpose is to serve a God who teaches you to serve others. There was a clergy that related this story not too long ago. A professor and his son took a 1,000-mile backpacking trip from British Columbia to Southern California, 1,000 miles. And so they prepped for this. They hadn't done it before, any kind of a long trek like that. But they decided they were going to do it. And they said, we read about this trip, and they said 90% of the people that tried or started never finish it. They just give up. It's too daunting, even before they start. But very often, many of them give up very shortly into the journey. But this professor and his son said that they had many, many tribulations along the way. Delays from rain, lack of food and water, danger from animals, costed by thieves, physical exhaustion, and personal injury. But he said, we made it. We made it. Something that we thought was not possible, we made it. Because of two things. One, that we will finish what we started. We will finish it no matter what. And secondly, expect a lot of bad things along the way. So when it rained and we couldn't move, we took it in stride because we expected that. When we got robbed, didn't bother us. We expected that. Said it was putting one foot in front of the other. When it got stuck in the mud, you take a couple steps, you meet a bear. Take a couple more steps, and your legs start cramping. Take a couple more steps, and you meet some crazy person in the woods. And we just said to ourselves, we just thought it was a short time before we met crazy people along the way. But I'm wondering if that isn't kind of an analogy of Christian life. We struggle. We know there are going to be bad times. We know there are going to be trials. We know there are going to be failures. There's many times when we aren't going to be the kind of Christians that we thought we were or that we would like to be. But we keep putting one foot in front of the other. And Jesus says, I give you purpose, I give you hope, and I give you the promise of everlasting life. It's a hard sell, but I'll buy it in a minute. Amen.